management will have a tough task and tough time whenever it wants to implement a significant change in the organization. It must know the relationship between defense mechanisms and individual behavioral objectives and patterns. This is the real tough task for the management before implementing a significant change in the organization, whether it is in the structure of the organization or running process of the day to day organizational methodology or bringing a new vistas in running the organization or even amalgamating with another organization. This implementation of significant change will happen in any organization, which will be resulting in lot of defense mechanisms and resistance from the workmen to the top level of managers. The conceptual basis for comprehending unconscious process is provided by psychoanalytical theory. When discussing in implementation of a significant change and manager's capacity to identify employee defense mechanisms that may become an issue later on, this viewpoint can be quite useful. The mind's defense systems are its conscious and unconscious responses to anxiety inducing experiences. Anxiety is important to all psychoanalytical theory because it is the most terrible feeling a human being can have when it is intense and acute. Whenever a worker or a manager, a junior manager feels, the repercussions will be intense and acute. Psychologically, you will develop a feeling, and this feeling will construct several defense mechanisms in the mind. So, the management should psychoanalytically deal this problem. Regardless of the causes, real or even imagined, anxiety produces the same biological reactions in a person. It occurs when the subconscious mind's usual thoughts, feelings, or behaviors clash with the conscious mind's different opinions, feelings, and plans of action. Unconscious drives tend to steer and redirect energy towards other things and ignore the change initiative. We should not allow the process to drive to the level of ignoring the change initiative. We must draw back the attention and the acute attention of the people involved in the significant change to the main motive of the significant change. These defenses are considered the primary source of incompetence in employees and organizations, as well as a factor in resistance to organizational change. Resistance or attitude towards significant change is likely to be associated with a range of work outcomes, including job satisfaction and organizational commitment. When addressing organizational change in implementing a significant change, managers and business owners must consider the potential stumbling blocks to particular process, a particular methodology implemented by the people who will be affected by the significant change which you will be implementing in your organization. Psychological defense mechanisms as a moderator to reduce undesirable psychological effects, particularly anxiety, individuals used to misrepresent perceptions of reality according to the idea presented by Sigmund Freud. Generally, these misrepresentations happen involuntarily. I repeat this sentence. As Freud pointed out, generally these misrepresentations happen involuntarily. However, they may emerge consciously. Freud classified 6 key defense mechanisms that describe human behavior and reasoning. Other defense mechanisms have also been recognized in the literature of psychoanalysis. Individuals use these defense mechanisms to deal with anxiety inducing stimuli. I repeat these words. Mechanisms to deal with anxiety inducing stimuli, which prevents them from anxiety. However, consistent use of these mechanisms may cause maladjustment. There are three types of defense mechanisms: mature, immature, and neurotic. Splitting projection and projective identification are examples of primary neurotic, that is, defense mechanisms. The mechanisms that emerge first are those that work on the unconscious level. They block adequate response to the environmental stimuli to the greatest extent possible. Repression, reaction formation, denial, isolation, and undoing allow adaptability to reality's conditions and probable harm, but they produce less direct disruption to the effects of the task completed. Here, the major role must be played by the management's communication, clearly delineating the significant change which you will be bringing into your organization. With all intents, with all intent explaining the workman and the junior level of managers what are the real significant changes which will result in positively to the organization, and also people who participate and implement and get success the changing of significant points in the organization. Compensation, repression, anticipation, sublimation, and humor are classified as the most mature defense mechanisms which aid in coping with harsh psychological realities. They effectively manage challenges and do not permit anxiety, shame, or other unwanted emotions to control the behavior of individuals. This has to be concentrated mainly by the HR. The role of the HR will be the top on this particular point. However, the control of immature defense mechanisms reduces the attributes of performance and decisions as well as the recommended solutions. According to the eminent people, opposition to change resistance are sometimes viewed as independent, distinct occurrences. However, they are practically synonymous in that they both denote an extreme, with each being on the inverse end of the continuum. Within the continuum, moving from resistance to commitment is accomplished. Journal of Business that social review in emerging economics through a series of stages. Employees go through a reaction phase even when their workplace undergoes a change. According to several eminent people, this process includes four phases: early denial, resistance, incremental exploration, and ultimately commitment. Therefore, organizational commitment can be predicted using defense mechanisms. In this study, defense mechanisms are expected to moderate the relationship between employee attitude toward change and the organizational commitment. Here, the organizational commitment plays a beautiful role. If an employee is committed to the organization, if he has a belief whatever significant change is brought by the management, definitely it is the interest of the workman and also the progress of the organization. If he develops that psychological feeling, all defense mechanisms can be converted into an ultimate reality of commitment to the organization. Practical implications are there that we will discuss. When implementing change, it is suggested it is critical to assess human resistance. Similarly, according to several psychologists, in order to promote organizational change, it is sometimes necessary to understand the unconscious motives to accomplish a successful change endeavor. Management could acknowledge the benefits of working with the human dimension and devise suitable intervention techniques. I emphasize these words. Devise suitable intervention techniques. Here, the role of mentors come. Here the role of keen observers come, who can tell the workmen and also give a feedback, honest perspective to the management, what is the reality at the grassroots level, what are the real fears in the brains of the people, and what are the defense mechanisms which are creating anxiety among the men with whom the management has to deal with all care and without disrupting the emotions of the workman. Benefits of working with this human dimension and devise suitable intervention techniques while implementing big change, there will be always a possibility of a positive result to the management. The role of individual defense mechanisms in relation to other variables was not investigated. It has to be properly investigated. This will provide a depth of information about the employee unconscious motive. It is also suggested that it can explore the information moderating effects of individual defense mechanisms and gender in this relationship. In conclusion, we can say whenever in an organization a significant change is being implemented, enough of care has to be taken into consideration by specifically top leaders with all great effective participation of HR wing and keen observers and senior management, duly analyzing the psychological factors, bringing all the force into one stream which can develop organizational commitment. That will be the way to implement. In conclusion, we say the possibility to identify the defense mechanisms used by the employees will positively regulate the activities connected with the successful execution of the significant change of an organization. It will also minimize the unfavorable outcomes of the employees' maladjusted behaviors in the organization. This is the process. This is the way the management must be prepared. It should have a clear plan. It should have a clear outlay. It should have a clear communication process in explaining the workmen or the managers involved while bringing the significant change in the organization in order to proceed and bring change in the organization in the best interest of the workmen and also the organization with all care and which will give success to the organization. The role of mentors, the role of top management, the role of senior faculty, even if you bring the former employees taking their advices about this significant change process implementation, it will help the organization to do it in a pakka way, in a very perfect way, which ultimately will develop organizational commitment and bring success in implementing a significant change in the organization. Thank you very much.